Movie theater chains negotiate with film distributors for the right to show a film. The theater usually pays a certain amount for the rights to show it, or pays the distributor a percentage of the box office. Most deals are percentage deals. They usually favor the distributor for the first couple of weeks of a film's release, then gradually give a greater percentage of the take over to the theater. You could consider these movies rentals. The theater rents a print or digital copy of a film for a certain amount of time and then returns it to the distributor when the time period is done. It should then come as no surprise that the vast majority of a theater's money comes from the sales of concessions. The movies themselves are used to draw people into the theater. Some are even considered lost leaders. If a theater didn't get money from the soda, candy, and popcorn that you bought, it could not stay open for long. Employees at the theater do everything from collecting money for tickets to selling concessions, checking theater for problems, and cleaning up after shows. I got in touch with locally owned Showpalce Cinema's management, who put me in touch with the technician John Rhodes, who has worked his way up through the ranks in the 7-theater chain over the last 22 years. Thanks for agreeing to meet us here today, Mr. Rhodes.
No problem.
You've worked at Showpalce Cinema for 22 years. Have you always been a technician?
No, I have not. Actually, when I started here in high school, I was actually a doorman, and then I moved upstairs to projection. And then after projection, I moved up to manager, and then in 1998, this position opened. And my boss said he would have me trained to do the technician job. And so I've been doing that ever since.
As a technician, what is your role at Showpalce?
Basically, my role is I set up the projectors at all the new locations, and I take care of maintain them, make sure that they're all working okay, and change the filters and change the bulbs. And if there's anything wrong with any of them, I'll call them into the knock to have a service person come out at the Christie locations. And if there's a problem at the locations that I service, then usually I order the parts and have them fixed.
So IMAX and Christie send someone to do everything?
Yes, IMAX sends somebody out every 6 months to do their normal preventive maintenance, and then they also send somebody out whenever there's a firmware upgrade or if there's anything that needs to be changed in the IMAX that they physically can't do remotely. Usually I have to coordinate with that person because he has to fly in from Canada, and then when he's here I usually have to stay with him because every theater is different, and he tends to like to have somebody to help him out, so I'm usually involved with the IMAX in that way. So usually if there's a problem with the Christie projectors, usually the manager calls the NOC, which is the Network Operations Center, and then they basically evaluate to see how bad the problem is, and then they dispatch a technician. Usually that technician calls before he comes in and coordinates with me, and I'll either meet him at the site or he'll fix it on his own.
Could you explain to me how you get your movies, and are they still on film?
Well, the movies now, almost all locations come in digital, so they basically come in the hard drives. They used to come in film cans, and then we would have to splice them together and put them together and run them through to make sure that they were all put together proper. And now that they come in digital, they come in hard drives. So the process has changed a lot.
So after you receive the movie, how do you exactly show it?
Would you like to go upstairs and let me show you how? So used to, what would happen is when we would do 35 millimeter film, the film would come from the film company in cans, and we'd have 6 to 7 reels. They were actually plastic reels, but I don't have any plastic reels to show you today because we don't have any actual film playing at this location. So the film would come in on reels, and then we would take the film out of the cans, and then they would be numbered 1 through 7, and you would have to either rewind them or they might be ready to go straight to the Platter System. And basically the Platter System, what it would do is it would hold the film once you put it all together, and that way we would be one constant run instead of having like 2 projectors with a changeover, or the projectionist would have to load a reel, and then there would be a changeover, then the next projector would fire up, and then they would load up the next reel. Anyway, the movies would come on a reel, and then we would put them on the makeup table, and then pay them onto the platter, and then we would just build them out. They usually 6 to 7 reels was a typical movie. This is basically a leader, and then these are some old trailers that I had laying around. So basically the beginning of the movie would be at the front of the reel, and the credits would be at the end of the movie. And we just basically spool out, and we would splice the movies together. So basically with the splicer, we would put the film. We would put the film in the splicer, and then join the next reel over, tape it, and then do the splice. And usually all the splicing would have been done over here on the makeup table, actually, but just to show you. So once the movie is all put together, the projectionist would have to run the movie to make sure that the movie played properly. Before we went digital, we had a 35mm projector at every theater up in the booth, and basically this was one of them. This is the only projector left at Showpalce East that's a 35mm projector. We don't run them anymore. We haven't had one in a long time, but if we had to, we could run one. And basically, once the film was put together, it would come into the projector on this roller. The top half of the projector here is would be the picture part, and this is where the bulb is, and then the projector's here, and then the bottom part of the projector is the actual where the sound is, and so this is the sound head down below. I showed you what the 35mm looked like, but this is now how the digital works. The digital now comes in on a little box like this, and it actually has a hard drive inside it, and usually it comes with a hard drive and some cables for you either to plug it in, or you can actually use a CRU and actually plug it directly into the to the library management system or at the projector. And so basically this here is basically the heart of how all the movies are moved here at Showpalce Cinemas East. This is called the LMS, it's the library management system. Basically all the movies go into here, and then everything is networked from here to all the other cinema servers, and each projector has its own cinema server, which holds anywhere from 3 to 6 movies that holds at each house. But if we need to transfer a movie, it gets done from here. All the scheduling gets done from here. And so basically once this came into place, we actually don't have projectionists anymore. We actually, the theater manager actually comes up here Thursday night, and he usually programs the movies. And so basically this is how it works. Everything is networked into here either through Cat 6 or fiber optic cable. So all these are technically a projector or a cinema server. And then here we have our computer screen, and then down below over here is basically, it's a 7 terabyte hard drive RAID, and basically what it does is it holds all the movies. So at Showpalce East we have 18 theaters, and basically all the content is actually downloaded into here and then moved or coordinated from this location at the LMS, which is in the center of the booth. So the first thing the manager would do is he would ingest the movie, which ingest is basically like downloading the movie into the LMS. At this location, it takes almost minute for minute to download the content. So if it's a 2-hour movie, it takes almost 2 hours to download the content into the LMS. But once it's in the LMS, we can transfer the movie in about 30 to 40 minutes to any of the other projectors in the building. At our other locations, the newer ones, the iService, they're a little bit faster. We can actually plug the hard drive directly into the server, and we can download the whole movie in about 25 minutes or less. Or we can actually even do a live play where we can actually play the movie off the hard drive that was sent from the film company. So like in Showpalce Henderson or Princeton, we could actually, if something happened, we had a down theater, we could actually take the hard drive, stick it into another theater, and save a big show. Okay, so after the digital movie has been transferred to the server and all that work has been done, then you're actually ready to project out to the auditorium. And this is the Christie Cp 2000S projector. It's one of our biggest projectors here at Showpalce Cinemas East. It has a 6,000 watt bulb on the inside, and then basically we use, I guess technically 5 formats that are programmed on this touch screen. We have flat scope, 3D flat, 3D scope, and then we have a special alternative content, which sometimes we run alternative content as well, like a DVD show, or we've been doing big screen sports actually in some of these auditoriums as well, where we actually have direct TV and we just do a live feed for television, and so we have a format for that. So basically once the lamp is on, the lamp, basically all the light gets harnessed through the light engine, and then it goes through the DLP chip, and then through the other optics, out through the lens, and then out through the screen. The IMAX is a little bit different, and because the IMAX, the screen is so big, they actually, we use dual projectors in the IMAX projector system, and then basically when we do 3D, their 3D is different as well. So the 3D, like when we're using 3D, the left projector is your left eye, and the right projector is your right eye, and so you're seeing two different projectors, one in each eye. And then when we do 2D, because the screen is so big, they tend to run both projectors at the same time. It's just the images are overlaid on each other, and so basically it makes the screen brighter. Basically, because IMAX, they send their own texts out. A lot of their stuff, it's all security. So there's, besides me changing the bulbs in the IMAX, there's really not a whole lot to show. The server is right here, but if I remove that, then basically it locks the projector up, and then you have to have a technician call IMAX, and then the IMAX wants to know why the key was unlocked, and then what did you do inside the machine, and then they generate a key that unlocks the projector. We calibrate the IMAX every day. It takes 45 minutes for the IMAX projectors to sync together, and so that's what's happening right now. Is the manager came in and they're powering up the system. When they power up the system, it actually calibrates the two projectors to make sure they're at the brightest they possibly can be, and the pictures are all laying on top of each other. And that's pretty much how the IMAX works.
Thank you for meeting me here today, Mr. Rhodes.
No problem, Riley.
I never thought so much hard work would go into making a show and satisfying your customers. From Showpalce Cinemas East, I'm Riley Miller.